Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining me for another review. Today I'm going to take a slight departure from my usual 80s horror reviews and review a film I've been waiting for quite some time, the 2013 film Curse of Chucky. Now, as I mentioned in the opening, this is a film that I've been waiting for quite a while, and I've been really excited to see it. Of course, this is the sixth installment of the Child's Play series. It takes place, I think, 4 years after the events of Seed of Chucky, and basically a lot happens, or a lot has happened in that period of time. With this film, it opens with this woman in a wheelchair and her mother being sent a package in the mail, and they find out that this is the good guy doll, and of course this ends up being Chucky. So it's late at night, and this woman in the wheelchair hears a ruckus. She goes to check on it, and she finds that her mother is dead. At this point, things really start to go downhill for her. Her family ends up coming to visit her and stay with her temporarily at the house in order to take care of her, in order to make sure that she's okay. So now the entire family is at the house. They seem like a very nice, loving, traditional family, but as the film goes on, you gradually begin to realize that they're kind of holding in some secrets, and perhaps they're not quite as pristine as you initially had thought them to be. And as they're sort of going through their family quarrels, Chucky is sort of uh, very discreetly making the rounds about the house and kind of raising hell in his own Chucky-like way. So as strange things continue to happen, the woman in the wheelchair begins to do some investigating and begins to realize that with Chucky there is more than meets the eye, and shortly thereafter things really start to kind of hit the fan, and this is when Chucky is fully unleashed into kill mode, if you will. So right off the bat, of course, Child's Play fans are wondering, is this a worthy sequel? Is this the sequel that you've been waiting for sort of since the pretty much the second Child's Play, because in between there hasn't really been, at least in my view, a exceptional sequel. And the answer to that question, unfortunately for me anyway, is for the most part not really. I say that with some hesitation because I think that this film had some good things about it, and it had some good things going for it. But overall, once I finished watching it, and after I sort of thought about it and tried to put the films together, um, it didn't really strike me as being all that spectacular. Now, of course, as you may have heard, Don Mancini wanted to remove himself from the trend of the last two films, sort of the comedy trend, and then he wanted to revert back to the initial two films. And unfortunately, I'm not quite sure that they were successful in going that route. Um, just briefly, I'm going to touch upon kind of what I liked and what I didn't like about the film. So starting out with the things that I liked about the movie, first, I have to say that I at least have to give the film credit, or the filmmakers credit, for attempting to really build onto the Child's Play series. This really didn't seem like kind of an ad hoc film that was just thrown in there to make money. They really tried to build on to the storyline of the previous films. So some of the stories that they end up building in this film really change a lot about the history of the previous other films, and that's kind of something that needs to be appreciated. The other thing that I liked about the movie was that I felt that it had a really good build-up. There are some interesting scenes, and one in particular involving rat poison and dinner at the dinner table, that are sort of blackly comedic, and there wasn't a lot of humor in the film, but the scenes that did attempt to add the humor, like the scene that I mentioned, did so pretty well. And then one other thing, which is just kind of worth mentioning, is I thought that the opening credit scene was really good. In fact, it was probably my favorite part of the movie. There's just really neat music going on, and you get kind of this 360 view of Chucky as the credits roll, and it was just really well done, I thought worth noting. And on to things that I didn't like about the film, which unfortunately is going to be a bit longer of a list. First, actually, I initially said that one thing I liked about the film was the way that they added to the story, but this is also something that I didn't really particularly like in some respects because I felt that in some way it just didn't add up. The way that they attempted to implement everything into the plot line and kind of wrap everything up into a nice clean bundle, it didn't seem to work for me, and it didn't seem to make sense. A lot of people have been complaining kind of about the various endings and the fact that it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the films. So that was kind of a negative. More than anything, though, I just did not like Chucky as a character that much in this movie. I don't know if it was his aesthetic or if it was just his character, but there was just something not appealing to me about Chucky in this film. I loved Chucky in the first two films, and then I kind of gradually began to not like him quite as much in the other sequels. But in this film, he just looks different than the first two films, or the first three films, and of course the fourth and the fifth film as well. He actually looks more like like an old woman, like a scary looking woman, as opposed to kind of a child's doll, or maybe even a freaky doll. And the animation itself, like the facial animations and when he's talking, going about his motions, it just didn't look right to me, and it just kind of bothered me throughout the film. Additionally, Brad Dourif, it seemed like he maybe was just collecting a paycheck because, or maybe the writers just did not write Chucky well because Brad Dourif did not come out in the character as he normally does in the first Child's Play, and especially in the second Child's Play, where he really, I think, had the best one-liners. He was a really interesting character, and you kind of got a kick out of watching him. But in this film, that just didn't happen for me. Like I found him sort of boring, and judging by the fact that the main reason that you watch a Child's Play movie is because of Chucky, that's kind of a large critique. Also, in a strange kind of way, the film reminded me of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and this is primarily due to the fact that the film didn't seem to know when or how to end. There just seemed to be like three or four different endings that just kept going on and on. I was wondering, okay, well, is this going to be the end? Is this where they're going to stop it? And then they just kept going and going and going, and I didn't really like how they ended up doing that. Now, there is a scene at the end of the credits that kind of adds to the story. Some people are complaining about the scene a lot. I thought that it was kind of entertaining, although it did sort of seem like just a cheap trick, just to kind of um, pay homage to the original films. But you definitely want to at least stick around and watch that. But overall, though, would I say that I recommend the film? I would say that yes, it's at least worth watching. I think that you should give it a shot, certainly. Does it really add to the series in any significant way? No, not really. I mean, I still certainly like the first two films the most. I would probably rank this maybe like in the middle tier, maybe fourth or fifth best. It's difficult to say. But anyway, on my scar scale, I would say that I give this film 3 scars out of 5. And again, for fans of the Child's Play series, I'm sure that you'll already watch it, but do check it out and let me know if you agree or disagree with me. And thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon.